Doctor, I really love him so much. Please help me and give me a fake result.
I hope you know the consequence of what you are doing, Ma, but if you insist, I will give it to you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Sharon had always believed that love could conquer anything, until the day it couldn't. She met Victor during her final year at the University of Lagos, in one of those cramped lecture halls where dreams were born and futures decided. He sat 3 rows ahead, his laughter infectious, his smile disarming. When he finally turned around and asked to borrow her notes, she knew her life had changed forever. Their courtship was the kind people wrote songs about, stolen moments in the campus gardens, late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn, promises whispered under the jacaranda trees. Victor was everything she had prayed for. Kind, ambitious, deeply spiritual, and hopelessly in love with her. By the time they graduated, marriage wasn't a question, it was a certainty. But then came the genotype test, that routine medical examination every engaged couple in Nigeria knew they had to face. Sharon's hands trembled as she opened her results slip in the cramped laboratory office in Yaba. AS. Her heart dropped. She already knew what Victor was. He told her casually months ago, never thinking it would matter. AS. The same as her. In that moment, the future she built in her mind, the white wedding at the cathedral, the home in Lekki, the children with Victor's eyes, crumbled like sand. Her mother's voice echoed in her head from years of warnings. Never marry AS if you're AS. You'll birth children who will suffer and die young. The lab technician, a tired-looking man named Joseph, noticed her tears. What's wrong? He asked, though he'd seen this scene play out 100 times. Sharon looked at him, then at the results slip, then back at him. And in that desperate moment, an idea took root. Terrible, unthinkable, but somehow irresistible. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. Can you change it? Joseph's eyes widened. Madam, I can't do that. It's against. I'll pay you, she interrupted, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. Whatever you want. Just make it say AA. Please. I'm begging you. I can't lose him. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Joseph looked around the empty lab, then back at Sharon's tear-stained face. Finally, he named a price that made her gasp, but she paid it, draining her savings account right there, watching him print a new results slip that would seal her fate and destroy her future in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The wedding was everything Sharon had dreamed of almost. St. Agnes Cathedral was packed with over 300 guests. The choir sang like angels, and Victor couldn't stop smiling as he slid the ring onto her finger. Her parents beamed with pride. His mother wept with joy. Only Sharon felt the cold stone of dread sitting in her stomach, even as she smiled for the cameras. You're trembling, Victor whispered as they danced their first dance to Timmy DeColo's The Vow. Are you cold? Just overwhelmed with happiness, she lied, the first of many lies that would build the foundation of their marriage. And for the first 3 years, it almost seemed like she'd gotten away with it. They moved into a beautiful flat in Suralere. Victor's accounting firm thrived, and Sharon built a successful career as a marketing executive. They were the couple everyone envied. Young, successful, deeply in love. When Sharon discovered she was pregnant, Victor cried with joy. He painted the nursery himself in cheerful yellows and greens, read parenting books cover to cover, and talked to her belly every night. I promise to be the best father, he'd whisper to their unborn child. I'll protect you from everything. Sharon's guilt was a living thing by then, growing alongside the baby, but she pushed it down, telling herself everything would be fine. Many AS to AS couples had healthy children, didn't they? The odds were in their favor, she convinced herself during sleepless nights. But God doesn't bless lies with mercy. Their son, Joseph, named after Victor's late father, was born on a rainy August morning at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. He was perfect at first, with Victor's deep brown eyes and Sharon's delicate fingers. For 6 blissful months, Sharon allowed herself to believe she'd been worried for nothing. Then the crises began. The first time little Joseph's hands and feet swelled to twice their normal size, Sharon knew. She knew with a mother's terrible instinct, even before the doctors confirmed it with blood tests. Sickle Cell Disease, SS genotype. Her beautiful baby boy would live a life of pain because of her selfishness, because she'd chosen her happiness over his well-being. Victor was devastated but confused. How is this possible? He kept asking the doctors at LUTH, his voice breaking. I'm AS and Sharon is AA. How did this happen? Sharon performed the role of shocked wife perfectly, having rehearsed it in her nightmares for months. I don't understand either, she cried, clutching little Joseph to her chest as he screamed in agony. Maybe they made a mistake with my test. Maybe the lab mixed up results. These things happen in Nigeria, don't they? The doctors were skeptical but had no proof, and Victor was too distraught to question the woman he trusted completely. Instead, he blamed himself entirely. The next 5 years were a descent into hell paved with Sharon's good intentions. Victor quit his job to start a business that would give him flexible hours to help care for Joseph. He accompanied Sharon to every hospital visit, every crisis, every midnight rush to the emergency room when their son's pain became unbearable. Little Joseph was in and out of hospitals more than he was in school. While other children his age ran and played at the park near their home in Suralere, Joseph sat on benches, watching with haunted eyes too old for his small face. The crises came like clockwork, sometimes every few weeks, sometimes monthly. His little body would betray him, the sickle-shaped cells clogging his blood vessels, causing pain so intense that he'd scream until his voice gave out. Sharon would hold him during those episodes, feeling each of his sobs like a knife to her heart, knowing she was the architect of his suffering. Mommy, why does it hurt so much? Joseph asked one night in the pediatric ward at LUTH, his voice small and broken. He was 7 years old but looked 5, the disease stunting his growth and stealing his childhood. Why did God make me this way? Sharon had no answer. What could she say? That God didn't make him that way, she did? That his suffering was the price of her selfishness? Instead, she kissed his fevered forehead and whispered lies. God has a special plan for you, baby. You're going to be okay. But Victor's guilt consumed him in different ways. He convinced himself that somehow, despite the impossible odds, his AS genotype had combined with Sharon's supposed AA to create this tragedy. He began attending prayer vigils 3 times a week, fasting until he grew gaunt, consulting with pastors and native doctors alike, desperately seeking a cure that didn't exist. It's spiritual warfare, their pastor at Redeemed Christian Church declared during a special deliverance service. The enemy is attacking your bloodline through the child. Victor believed it, pouring money into offerings and special prayers, while Sharon sat in the pew drowning in guilt, knowing the real enemy sat right there in the front row wearing a worship song on her lips. The medical bills were crushing. Victor sold his car, then his mother's land in the village, then borrowed from friends and family, all while treating Sharon like fragile glass. Rest, my love, he'd say, taking over the housework, the cooking, the endless hospital vigils. You've been through enough. His kindness was torture. Every gentle touch, every loving word was acid on Sharon's conscience. She wanted to scream the truth 1,000 times, but fear paralyzed her, fear of losing Victor, fear of his hatred, fear of what her confession would destroy. So she stayed silent, watching her husband destroy himself with misplaced guilt while their son suffered, and the lie grew bigger, more monstrous, until it became a 4th presence in their home. Everything changed the week Joseph turned 10. It started with what seemed like another routine crisis, fever, pain in his legs and chest, the usual harbingers. But this time, something was different. Joseph's pain was more intense, and he began struggling to breathe. At LUTH's emergency room, the doctors' faces told Sharon everything before they spoke. Acute chest syndrome, the lead doctor explained grimly. His lungs are being affected. We need to act quickly. For 3 days, Joseph lay in intensive care, tubes and monitors covering his small body, fighting for each breath. Victor practically lived in the hospital chapel, praying until his knees bled. Sharon sat by their son's bedside, holding his tiny hand, whispering apologies he was too sedated to hear. On the 3rd night, when the doctors said they'd done all they could and it was now in God's hands, Sharon broke. She found Victor in the chapel, his face buried in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. It's all my fault, he was whispering to himself. My blood did this to him. I did this to my own son. Something inside Sharon finally shattered. She couldn't let this good man destroy himself for her sin any longer. "Victor," she said, her voice barely audible. "There's something I need to tell you." He looked up, his eyes red and swollen. "Not now, Sharon. I need to pray. IMAS," she interrupted, the words tumbling out like stones. "I've always been as. The result was fake. I paid a lab technician to change it because I couldn't bear to lose you." The silence that followed was deafening. Victor stared at her as if she were speaking a foreign language, his mind struggling to process words that couldn't possibly be real. "What?" he finally whispered. "What did you just say?" Sharon collapsed onto the chapel floor, years of guilt pouring out in violent sobs. "I'm so sorry. I knew we were both AS. I knew what could happen, but I loved you so much, and I was so scared to lose you, and I thought maybe we'd be lucky, maybe we'd have AA children, maybe it would be okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing has been okay. And Joseph, our beautiful Joseph, is suffering because of my selfishness, because I put my love for you above his well-being, above everything." Victor stood frozen, his face cycling through disbelief, comprehension, and finally, a rage Sharon had never seen in him. "You knew." His voice was barely human. "You knew and you married me anyway? You sentenced our son to this life of agony because you couldn't bear to let me go." "Victor, please, don't." He backed away from her like she was diseased. "Don't touch me. Don't speak to me. My son, our son, has suffered for 10 years. 10 years. He's been in pain his entire life because you lied. Every crisis, every hospital visit, every night I've listened to him scream in agony, that was all preventable. And I've been drowning in guilt, thinking I somehow caused this, praying for forgiveness for something I didn't even do, while you sat there and let me suffer." The aftermath was brutal. Victor moved out that same night, unable to even look at Sharon. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later, along with a custody arrangement that essentially gave him full custody of Joseph, with Sharon allowed only supervised visits. She didn't fight it. How could she? Joseph survived that crisis, but the truth nearly destroyed him in different ways. Victor, in his anger and pain, had told their son everything. At 10 years old, Joseph learned that his suffering was not a cosmic accident or divine testing, but the direct result of his mother's deliberate choice. "I hate you," Joseph said during their first supervised visit at Victor's mother's house in Acadia, his voice cold and flat. "You could have prevented this. You could have married someone else and had healthy children. But you chose yourself over me." Those words haunted Sharon more than anything. She lost her job, unable to focus, unable to function. She moved back in with her aging parents in Mushin, a ghost of the vibrant woman she'd once been. Her mother, when she learned the truth, could barely look at her. 2 years passed in a fog of depression and regret. Sharon existed rather than lived, watching from afar as Victor slowly rebuilt his life, as Joseph continued his fight against a disease that should never have been his burden to bear. She attended therapy, joined support groups, volunteered at Sickle Cell Foundations, trying desperately to atone for the unatonable. Then, on Joseph's 12th birthday, something unexpected happened. Victor called her. "Joseph wants to see you," he said, his voice neutral but not hostile. "Actually see you, not the supervised visits. He has something he wants to say." Sharon's hands shook as she drove to their old neighborhood in Sur-Île, to the house where Victor now lived alone with their son. Joseph sat in the living room, thin and small for his age, but his eyes, those eyes that had once been filled with hatred, held something different now. "Mom," he said simply, "I've been talking to my therapist and to Pastor Rita at church. She's a children's coordinator, and she's been teaching us about forgiveness." Sharon could barely breathe. "Joseph, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I'm still angry. I probably always will be angry about what you did. It was selfish and wrong, and I live with the consequences every single day. But I'm also learning that holding on to hatred is poisoning me worse than the disease. Pastor Rita says forgiveness isn't about excusing what someone did. It's about releasing yourself from the prison of bitterness." Tears streamed down Sharon's face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No, you don't," Joseph agreed with heartbreaking honesty. "But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because I'm tired of being angry all the time. I'm doing it because, despite everything, you're still my mother, and somewhere underneath all that pain and anger, I still love you. And I don't want to die one day having spent my whole life hating you." Victor stood in the doorway, his own eyes wet. "The therapist says healing comes from truth and accountability," he said quietly. "You destroyed our family with your lie, Sharon. You can never undo that. But Joseph and I have decided that we won't let your mistake continue to poison what time we have left together. Whatever happens with Joseph's health, we want him to experience love, not just anger." It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. Sharon didn't move back in. Their marriage remained dissolved. But slowly, carefully, they began building something new from the rubble. Not a family in the traditional sense, but a support system for Joseph. Sharon learned about bone marrow transplants, about new treatments, about clinical trials. She started a foundation to provide free, verified genotype testing for engaged couples, speaking publicly about her mistake, warning others not to repeat it. She became the face of Choose Truth, Choose Life, a campaign that went viral across Nigerian social media, reaching millions. "My name is Sharon," she'd say in the videos that spread across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. "And I destroyed my son's life because I chose love over truth. Don't make my mistake. Your feelings will pass. Your children's suffering won't." Joseph, now a teenager, sometimes appeared with her at awareness events, his story moving audiences to tears. He'd become an advocate for sickle cell patients, using his pain to help others. Victor remarried eventually. A kind woman named Rita, the same pastor who'd helped Joseph with forgiveness, who loved Joseph as her own and treated Sharon with careful respect. It wasn't the ending Sharon had envisioned in that cramped lab in Yaba all those years ago, but it was an ending rooted in truth, painful and imperfect, but real. And on days when Joseph's pain wasn't too severe, when he could smile and laugh and be a teenager instead of a patient, Sharon allowed herself a small measure of grace. Not forgiveness, never that, but perhaps the beginning of learning to live with the weight of what she'd done. The lie that had seemed like salvation had become her prison. But the truth, however late, had finally set them free. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or taught you something about the devastating cost of deception, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful, life-changing stories that will make you think, feel, and grow. Share this video with your friends, your family, your loved ones, especially those planning to get married. Let's spread awareness about the importance of honesty in relationships and genetic compatibility. And drop a comment below. What lesson did you learn from Sharon's story? Have you ever faced a difficult truth that you were tempted to hide? Let's start a conversation. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Let's save lives together, one truth at a time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more interesting and captivating stories. See you on the next one.